Yeah, Julie.
Here.
Okay. And Petra. Yeah. Lee. Hannah.
Hello.
Lee. Simcha. I guess it's supposed to be on. Yeah. And Darcy. Lee. And
Ariella, I'm here just for today.
okay. You were here last year. Yes, okay. And
Sheila.
Shira.
Mhm.
Shiraz. Okay, so we have Josh. Brushing. We have Smita. Then we have
Yeah.
so let's look at these terms. Thus, the threshing, it's something that's enclosed in a shell. So that would be when we're trying to take the grain seed, we have wheat, we're trying to get it out of the shell, pressing it, that would be the malacha abdash. Then we have schita, the squeezing, it's the same idea, and we spoke about yesterday about squeezing fruits and vegetables for their juice. So the Torah prohibition would be grapes and olives, because that is, the result is wine and oil, and that has its own identity. So a grape is a fruit, the wine is the separate identity, and taking from the grape, making it into juice is a Torah prohibition. Taking an olive, squeezing it for its oil is a Torah prohibition. Everything else, orange juice, grape juice, tomato juice, all of these is an extension of the fruit itself. And therefore, from a Torah perspective, It is not changing from an orange to orange juice, it's just squashing the orange and getting this puree out of this orange. But the Rabbanan say to us, it looks the same. So just as you're not allowed to squeeze a grape for its juice, you're not allowed to squeeze an orange or any other type of fruit or vegetable that is normally in whatever locale it is, it's used for its juice. Then we have, I want to now differentiate between the schita and melabin. Melabin is whitening, which is washing. Taking a garment, there are 3 steps in how we wash a garment. Number 1 would be, there's something that's dirty shirt. How do we get the dirt out? Number 1 is we soak it. Soak it, loosens the dirt. Next thing is,
Wash.
we take soap and then we scrub it or agitating. The third thing is
Squeeze it.
squeezing out the dirty water. So why? Now, these 2 things are both squeezing, but the intention is both different. Why are we squeezing this? We want the result of what's going to be squeezed out. We want it's a useful thing. When we're squeezing a grape, we want the grape juice. That's why we're squeezing it. When we're squeezing the garment, why are we squeezing it? Because we want to get rid of the liquid. Both of these are Torah prohibitions, but for different reasons. This would be because we are producing the wine and oil. Here we are because we are washing the garment, we're whitening it. I just want to get that principle across. Then we have another term that's tefeach amanas latviach. When is something called wet? Halachically. How do you identify something that's wet? Drips, okay, you actually see a liquid. But what happens if this were to get wet? Okay, it's dripping. Okay, it's dripping, so it's wet. Yeah? Okay, now. So, how wet is this? It's not, yeah, but it's not dripping.
Yeah.
So how do we identify halachically if this is wet or not?
If your hands get wet.
So it's tefeach amanas latviach. We're going to do a kli shlishi. Okay, this is number 1. This is number 2. This is number 3.
Okay.
If this is dry, then this is not wet.
Oh, gosh.
And you're allowed to test it on
Huh?
Shabbos.
But we have to sort of know the principle beforehand, so we can sort of be able to identify this. So we're going to now get to, yes.
So I have a question on that. No,
I'll give demonstrations when it's actually used.
okay, but I was just wondering, so like, could you use baby wipes? on
That's my
Shabbos?
demonstration. Here we go.
Like, if like you're changing a baby's diaper.
Here we go. So now, what we're going to do now is go from yesterday we were in the making juice, all kind of juices. Today we're
Yeah.
going to do the same principle, which is also schita and malaben. We're going to use that now in the kitchen.
Wow. Oh, we're working for Shabbos.
You got a fish.
Wow.
Let's see what else we have.
You have a ruffle in there?
Different tools.
A ruffle. Did you guys see it? I said, here, let me have a ruffle in the end. I hope.
Okay, now. What's,
Funny.
now there are two things that we're going to be concerned about. And that is, we're going to, when we're going to make something wet in the kitchen, why are we making this wet?
To clean.
Are we trying to clean the sponge?
No.
No. So when we're going to be squeezing, when we're going to make this wet, what is the background to why we make it? What do we want? As a result, what do we want to do with this?
Wash something. with
Yes,
it.
but we want to extract the liquid that's in here in order to wash the table. Because if we're not going to make it wet, then we should have just wiped it with the dry sponge. The fact that we're making it wet is we're going to make it wet in order to squeeze the sponge to get the water out, to make use of the water. So that would be the same as we're squeezing a grape for its grape juice. We're squeezing the sponge to get the liquid, to be able to use the liquid. Even though this liquid is not actually going to, we're going to wipe it up after that. But while we're washing, we do want it wet. So therefore, squeezing the sponge on Shabbos that's wet is the malacha of disha or schita. It is a Torah prohibition. So this actually would be a Torah prohibition. Now, what about this? So this is the cellulose that's here. It's an absorbent material. It would be the same as I'm using. I didn't take my wash rag. All this would be a Torah prohibition because it's actually a material that actually absorbed. Now, what's this?
Shabbos sponge.
But what material does it have? What makes it a Shabbos sponge to begin with? It is because it's not an absorbent material. However, this is the steel wool that also is a not absorbable material. Can I use this on Shabbos? Can I make this into a Shabbos steel wool? So rabbinically, anything that absorbs liquid, even though it's not a material, the Rabbanan put it in the same category. Because to us, this and this would be pretty, this and this would be pretty close. So, or this would be pretty close. So if we're going to be using this, then we might come to use this because this, when I'm going to put in the water, it's going to get, just using this as a demonstration, I don't want to get my hands with soap. I was trying to get a soapless one, I would be able to do so. But this does absorb. When I squeeze it, the water is going to come out. This absorb. If I'm going to be using this on Shabbos, then why can I not use this on Shabbos? To me, it's all the same. I'm not going to go with this, a material that does absorb, this a material that doesn't absorb. So they all put it into the same category. So this would be rabbinically prohibited. This would be Torah prohibited. Now, closer to us, in the same category as the steel wool, would be our hair. Wet hair does not absorb the water, but it retains the water. So if your hair is wet and you then take, water is going to come dripping out. So the Rabbanan put the hair in the same category as our sponge. Just as you're not allowed to squeeze the sponge from water, you're not to squeeze the hair from its water. So therefore, it's a rain, and you're soaked, and your hair is wet. What could you do? What can't you do? So you can't take and go to the sink and squeeze your hair to get it out.
You can like pat it dry, right?
So you have to do is pat it dry. You could pat it from the underneath and top. What you would do is take a towel, put it on top, and let the towel absorb the water, then move it to different places as your hair dries out more, fluff it from underneath and there until it becomes no longer once it becomes, it can still be moist, but it's not enough water to transfer the wetness to another surface. And at that point you could dry your hair properly. So you get it to a point where it's no longer tefech hamnas latviach. You get it to a point where it's no longer moist enough to transfer the moisture to a shlishi, to a third thing, and therefore we're going to be looking at. Okay. Now, usually in the wipes, the top ones would be, if it's standing the whole time this way, the top ones would be less wet. As you go to the bottom, the liquid seeps to the bottom. When you come to the bottom, if anyone has used these, they're really saturated. So let's see this one. So there are two things that they do to make it a Shabbos. So here it says, has a Kiddush cup. It makes it a Shabbos, but it does not have a hechsher. It comes from Eretz Yisrael, it comes from the land of Israel, but it doesn't have a hechsher to it. So I would sort of think, who makes it the Shabbos? But so anyway, let me see what we do here. It is moist enough. Yes. So they did not make it, it's not saturated.
Wait, is your hand dry now?
This hand is dry, yeah.
So it's
I'm
good.
saying, this I'm saying, I make an experiment, but I don't know what happens when I come to the bottom. I don't know in this one particularly, you would have to be more careful how saturated it really gets. But I think the principle, originally when they advertised about making a Shabbos one, they said that this is a non-absorbent material. And therefore the moisture that is there is only on the surface. And if it's on the surface, there is no issue because you're not squeezing this to get the liquid out because it's not absorbed, it's only on the surface. So they made it a material that's not absorbent. That's the idea behind it. If this company did it or not, that I'm not familiar. I'd have to see what happens when it comes to the bottom of this package to see if it's really, saturated or not, what kind of material it is. Yes.
I thought you just said that the Rabbanim were not, even if it's a non-absorbent material that doesn't have.
If it retains, if you're able to squeeze it and water comes out.
Okay, fine. So
So-
how are Shabbos sponges?
Okay. Let's see what's with this Shabbos sponge. Okay, so technically, make it into a Shabbos sponge. What did we say should not happen? What should not happen? Making a Shabbos sponge, what should not happen?
Shouldn't absorb or retain water.
Should not absorb, that's because this could be any. What makes a Shabbos, it should not retain water, right? Okay. Now, to make it a Shabbos sponge, my experiment would be when I squeeze it, is water going to come out?
Wow.
Okay, so that made the Shabbos sponge was that they did not retain the water.
Oh, wow.
But when
Okay.
when you're washing dishes and if you have the faucet running, you're like squeezing.
So you would have to, but it's not something that's not retaining water at any time. That's what basically, so it is, so that was this, then, don't remember, this was, what's the status of this? Let's just see what happens with you. I think this is, let's see what happens with this one. Is this a Shabbos one? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. So here we have,
A little.
okay. Now let's look with so now we have a bottle brush. Now the bristles are made out of nylon, so they do not absorb water, but now the question is it retaining water or not? Could this be used on Shabbos? Okay, Shabbos? No,
It's a good brush.
a toothbrush. This is a regular toothbrush. And now we have our
From the Shabbos one? Wow.
So I never used it. This was bought for demonstration.
Wow.
This
Did
is
we do
not-
Raphael on it?
It cost $5.99 in Weinstein's. I get commission for advertising. Okay, now, these bristles are made out of rubber. It's not the same as how do we? This retained the water, right? Try it again.
Oh, go ahead.
Huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, let it drip, right? Now, whatever it is, on the other one, they also let drip, let's stop dripping, and now.
Yeah.
There it
Okay.
goes.
So this is not for Shabbos.
All right, there it goes. Was it worth $5.99, guys? No way. Wow.
Again.
Yeah, let's see.
Bubbles.
Wow.
Okay, now, so this is, at one time they made it with hard rubber, and no one wanted to use it. They said it just was so uncomfortable, it makes like you scrub your teeth in a very uncomfortable way. So they came up with this one, this is the latest edition. What you have to do is you use it with a liquid toothpaste, yeah, so you can use it with mouthwash. So this would be the, okay, so this is basically, okay, this was also used for Shabbos, this is a Shabbos one, and I think this is older, so it's the same idea. Okay, so that's where, so I think we sort of have an understanding of this, of what could and cannot be used. So at one point, they used to make it, the Shabbos ones were very, very wide. You were able to see that it's a Shabbos one because the netting was so wide, no one would use it on a normal basis. This one looks very similar to a non-Shabbos one. You have to be careful with this, you have it in the kitchen, you have the Shabbos one, the non-Shabbos one. Now, in some circles, they don't use these sponges to begin with, because they say it's not the Shabbos spirit, we're not trying to make a thorough, Shabbos job, we're not just trying to rinse the windows. So let's now go just a step back. Can we wash dishes on Shabbos? Before we get to the sponge, can you wash the dishes on Shabbos?
Yes.
If you really.
Which dishes can be washed on Shabbos and which cannot be washed on Shabbos? So again, what we're trying to do is not, so as far as the dish is concerned, it's not an absorbable material. It's just on the surface, whatever it is. So that itself, putting the dish or glass or cutlery under the water is not the issue. What is the issue is, why would we not be able to do it?
Because it's malacha.
With malacha, we just, so
Because
let's.
it's excessive.
Hmm?
Wait, what, washing the?
Hot water.
Yeah, so hot water would be an issue if there is something that would be that hot that could be cooked. So you don't want to cook the, whatever is on the surface of the dish, so that would be bishul.
I thought you can.
But what happens if someone were to take the urn and pour it directly onto your dishes? Take some, you have your teapot and pouring that onto the dishes, that would be cooking. It's a kli rishon. It's going directly from the ila kli rishon, what's being poured from a tea kettle onto the dish that has food in it, and the food is going to cook up. So
What if you did it from a cookie?
so that would be so it's not a cooking issue anymore. Yeah. So that would be fine. So if someone prepares a basin of hot water, now so this is the hot water, so therefore now it's in a kli shlishi, or even if it's a kli sheni, the fact that you prepared it before Shabbos, by the time it gets to washing the dishes, it's going to be already cooled down sufficiently not to be considered cooking. What other issue are we concerned about?
You're not supposed to do or plan things for after Shabbos when it's
Okay,
Shabbos.
why are you washing the dishes?
Yeah.
In order that mitzvah Shabbos, you should be able to go to the Lava Malka right away and not have to do the dishes that were done that you had on Shabbos. That cannot be done.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that you have to be concerned about would be what's the soap that you're using with the dishes? So we cannot use any bar soap. I don't know if at one time, there was no liquid soap. All soaps, washing soaps were all bar soaps. And you had the bar soaps made from Rokeach company that had a bar soap with a blue stripe through it and a bar soap that had a red stripe through it. So you had your Fleischike bar soap and your dairy bar soap. At that time, when growing up, that was the kosher soap that you used for your dishes, because the other soaps were not kosher. So you couldn't use any other soaps. Even the liquid soaps were not kosher. So you had the bar soap, but that could not be used on Shabbos. Unless you make it into a solution, you put the bar into water, let it dissolve, and then you have now the liquid soaps. So now, first of all, it has to be kosher. And number two is, we try to make it not so we have a whole issue with the mareach, smoothing out a surface, like using lotions, and all these things would go into that category where we're going to be discussing when we come to that malacha. But what we're trying to do is not to have something that is a thick soap, a thick liquid, but rather a very watery soap. And therefore, the Shabbos soap means it was diluted very much. And also they took it was made out of coconut oil, and they did not put any scent into it. So it was you could be able to smell the Shabbos soap, both for the hands and both for the dishes, had a Shabbos soap smell that was unique for Shabbos. But now you can use all the other soaps as well. So the Shabbos soap, when it's being sold as a Shabbos soap, it means it's diluted, and therefore it's water pourable. So if you have two containers, you take your regular soap that you use all week, and you pour it into your Shabbos container, and you will add water to it, you'll dilute it, and now you have a Shabbos soap. Unless you're using the Shabbos soap as perfume.
I think that, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that like some like regular liquid soaps you can use, I think you can use like the Dawn soap. I think it's thin enough. And I also have a question, because I've heard like the different opinions. So like for hand soap, could I like use like regular hand soap? Because in my home, I have like the foaming hand soap, so I'm not spreading anything, but like I know that there are some who say that like the soft soap is too thick. So if I see soft soap, should I like add some water in my hand?
That would be the right thing to do, yes.
Okay.
Or you just after you have a little space in the dispenser, add some water, shake it up, and you'll dissolve it. That's what I do.
Thank you.
So we have now we have now the water is not too hot. The soap that we're using is dissolved soap, and now the question is, why are we washing the dishes now? So any dishes or cups and saucers or any cutlery that's going to be used during the Shabbos day could be washed whenever you would like to, as long as it's going to be used for the Shabbos day. It's not an activity on Shabbos to prepare for after Shabbos. as a convenience for after Shabbos. So as long as it goes according to your intention. So as long as so in other words, it comes Friday night, you've had the Shabbos meal. After the meal, you want to wash your cutlery or dishes for the next day. So then you would see, what are you going to be using the next day? If you're not going to be using any spoons the next day, we would not wash the spoons. We're using forks and knives, so that we wash the forks and knives. If it's the other way around, we're not going to be using the forks, we're going to be using spoons and knives, or just spoons, we just wash whatever you're going to be using the next day, that would be washed Friday night. You don't have to wait Shabbos when you're ready to have the meal, that to go wash your cutlery and dishes. You could wash it whenever to your convenience, as long as it's going to be, you intend that it's going to be used during Shabbos. With glasses, we say that glasses you could wash because throughout the day people have a drink, so that's fine. So glasses could be washed at any time, and cutlery and everything else. So now, yes.
What if you just don't want a mess?
Oh, I'm coming. That's my next. My next question is now: what do you do with the dishes that you're not going to be using the next day? So we have. Let's take a few situations. Let's sort of work through. So you have a dishwasher. Can you take the dishes that you're not going to be using the next day and put them in the dishwasher?
Yeah.
How do you put them in the dishwasher?
You just don't rinse them.
Okay,
You don't rinse them.
don't rinse them, just put them in. Now, what else? What else should we be aware of when you're putting them in the dishwasher? That we're putting it away because we're using it as a closet. We're not using it as a dishwasher. We're using it as a closet. What's the difference if it's a dishwasher or a closet? In a dishwasher, you arrange all the dishes and cutlery in its proper place. In a closet, you stock it up and put it in. So therefore, on Shabbos, you're not going to take, if you're going using your dishwasher as your storage, you're not going to take and put out the big dishes in the back, the way you would normally stack your dishwasher in the weekday. We're not going to do that because that's going to save you, because you're preparing for after Shabbos to wash the dishes, that you just have to press the button and then put in the soap and that's all. No, you're using it as your storage. So therefore, you could put them in, if you're going to have to rearrange them after Shabbos, then you put them in anyway. And after Shabbos, you'll rearrange them properly. As long as you're not using the Shabbos as your time saver, so then that could be done. So you could put in the dishwasher as your closet, put it in a way that it's not going to be arranged for after Shabbos, but after Shabbos, you're going to rearrange it and put it in the way that you like to stack your dishwasher. Or you put it away in, so you could put it away in a closet or any other place that would be out of sight. Some people stack it on their counter and then put a towel over it so it will not bother them. Now, what happens in a place where there are insects, things that crawl around, or in the summertime with flies? So we don't want the flies, we don't want the insects. So what do you do? What do you do? Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, it has to do with intention, right? So what could you do to avoid having all the creeping crawlers, getting a good meal, getting a Shabbos meal, or the flies just, buzzing around? What could we do and have the intention that's going to be done in a permissible way? What could we do? We have a stack of dishes.
Dirty dishes?
Oh, the dirty dishes, yeah.
You can cover them or something?
Cover them. If that will do the job, that will do the job. What happens if it won't do the job? Because you're able to creep under the covering. We're thinking now there's insects and
Put them in the dishwasher.
okay, but we don't have that. They're just what other? You can't keep them on the counter. You're going to put them in a closet. They're going to flourish all these.
I guess in that case, you would wash them.
So what you're going to do? You can take a basin of water and put them in.
Okay.
So you're not doing it in order to save you time for Shabbos,
Hot
after
or
Shabbos,
cold water?
huh?
Hot or cold water?
Well, you go cold water.
But it's soaking, no?
So but you're not soaking it to make it. faster on Mitzvah Shem. You soak them because you don't want any of the insects to attack the dirty dishes. So again, your intention is what counts. Since your intention is, so it's not a malacha. The only thing is you're preparing on Shabbos for after Shabbos. Is that preparation for after Shabbos? And the answer is no, because you're trying to just avoid all of the discomfort. So then you're allowed to do that. So again, a person does have that. We do take into consideration on Shabbos something that is disgusting to someone, that it could be removed. Even a muktzah item, if a person finds it disgusting, you're allowed to remove the muktzah item because it is disgusting. It's called garbage that is reprehensible, and it's something disgusting to you. You can have that removed. So that would be in a case where you do have some muktzah items of food remnants, you have bones, and some people tolerate this. On the weekdays they'll leave it out also until we get around to taking care of it. Some people are just very sensitive to all these things and they can't tolerate this. So we take that into consideration. If something that's not tolerable, then you get rid of it. Even though it's normally muktzah, the same thing let's say you have eggshells. Some people eggshells would be fine. Leave them there on the counter until after Shabbos. Some people, when you see the eggshells, they the Shabbos is ruined. That's it. You know, it's the eggshell. Is anyone like that in class? No. Okay. So we take it. I'm just saying in halakha we take that into consideration. The Rabbanan took everything into consideration since it is rabbinic. Muktzah is a rabbinic prohibition. Rabbanan took that into consideration, and they said in certain situations you could act according to the circumstances.
But if you're gonna like touch or move on the muktzah object, aren't we supposed to move it in a way that is different from the way?
So that would be our first choice. Yes, that's what you would do. That's correct. You take. Let's say if you have. That's correct. If you have your you have the eggshells on the table.
Yeah.
What you do is take the garbage pail, put it next to the counter, and then do it in an unusual way, backhanded or whatever else it would be. Okay, I hope this clarifies some.
Sorry, I have one last question for Rabbi. Let's see the brush.
Not normal. It's not the regular nylon.
So if the dirty dishes are just really bothering you, can you clean them and have this?
Put them in a basin.
That's all you can do?
You
That should be enough to sort of, not to